Hey guys, Jules here for WhatCulture.com, and I want to talk to you today about video game redesigns, or more specifically, redesigns that whiffed harder than Rich Hudson trying to insult me on Twitter because you do not have the arms to box with God, my friend. Sometimes you need to shake things up to get a new audience interested in your title, or even just cut some of the dead weight that was holding the franchise back. But when it gets really tricky is when it comes to the lead characters themselves. After all, these are the backbones on which everything else rests, so if they succumb to trying to be hip and cool, they'll fold faster than Rich Hudson packing away his blow-up sex lover when his parents come over for tea. I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 legendary video game heroes you won't recognise now. And yes, for the record, Rich is going to take all the verbal beatdowns in this list, so buckle up. Number 10, BOMBERMAN. BOMBERMAN is probably up there with one of the cutest character designs ever made. His little cube head and pudgy appendages are certifiably adorable and contrast so weirdly with the fact that he spends most of his time trying to execute his mates in walled arenas with explosives. On paper, it shouldn't work. On paper, that description would make you think of a cybernetic grit-filled warrior with murder in his eyes and a rock-hard stick of TNT in his pants. So why is it that when we were actually given a version like this, it was about as appealing as Rich Hudson's arm hair? Seriously, what are you, Teen Wolf? Well, it might have been that because Bomberman Act Zero was utter garbage more than anything, but the redesign of the lead character did not help things at all. By this point, we'd become so accustomed to the cutesy little chaos maker that this hot topic tryhard looked totally laughable to us. It managed to be goofy to an audience where this was the norm, and that takes some doing. Number 9, Conker. Right, this is utterly bizarre when you think about it. Microsoft, in their infinite wisdom, decided that the mascot they wanted to use to sell their HoloLens technology, a device that would, in their minds, ideally be in the houses of everyone with a PC, would be Conker from Conker's Bad Fur Day, or Diddy Kong Racing if you want to get picky about it. This is the same Conker who, in his own game, was a foul-mouthed, greedy, sleaze-riddled drunk arsehole. That's who they thought that would be a good idea to attach to this product. Obviously, they had to make some changes, and this is when they came up with young Conker, who not only looked nothing like his original version, but lacked any of the personality that went with it. He looks like there's something very wrong with him. He looks more runt than Rich does, and it pissed off fans of the original no end. For not only was it a slap in the face, but also it was the nail in the coffin to any hope we'd be getting to see Conker run rampant again under the House of M's rule. Number 8, Chris Redfield. Strangely enough, Chris Redfield is literally the man of 1,000 faces, and seemingly nearly all of them are just wrong in some weird shape or form. In fact, you could argue that it's taken up until Resident Evil 7 for him to look anything close to a believable human shape. I'm speaking, of course, about them guns he's carrying. And no, I don't mean the amount of steel he's got shoved in his arsenal that rivals what Rich's mum can shove in hers, there's my one per list, but I'm talking about the absolute pythons he's got masquerading as arms. It became the talking point and then laughing stock of Resident Evil 5, and it's easy to see why, especially when he uses these muscles to punch a boulder out of the way. Gone was the flat-top, plucky look that he had in Resident Evil 1, and in its place is a man who's pretty much, you could suggest, has injected more than a little bro virus into his veins. Number 7, Crash Bandicoot. If there's one thing the past decade has taught anyone, it's that adding tribal tattoos to something doesn't make it cool. It dates the living hell out of it. Now, that's no offense to if you at home listening to this video are tatted up in a manner that makes you look like a torn pack of biscuits, but still, you have to admit for a fair old while in the late 90s and early 2000s, a lot of characters in TV, film and video games began sporting these markings, and not all of them looked great. Why they needed to be applied to Crash, though, is beyond me. First off, he's covered in fur, so it's utterly ridiculous and served no purpose other than to A, try to market him as a cool guy to tweens, and B, as a stamp from the new devs picking up the project after Naughty Dog had gone on to bigger and better things. Also, as an addendum, his eyebrows aren't even on his whumping head, so what the ooka is going on here? He's like some DreamWorks animation rather than the manic marsupial he once was. Number 6, Dante, Devil May Cry. This is an egregious middle finger if ever I saw one, and actually a character design that was pretty spiteful. Now let it be known, from a gameplay perspective, I actually quite like DMC, and I really enjoyed the boss battle against the Fox News parody that was Bob Barbas, but when it came to Dante himself, the message and tone got a bit messy. Now, I'm not saying that a pale leather coat-wearing wisecracker was an original design from the off, but that was Dante's charm for many, and changing him from this to somebody who looks like they're going to front Broken Side or some other absolute tosh band was a bad move. Even worse is when you get to the carnival segment of the game and the wig blows onto his head, eliciting the response that you can see here. That was the devs going just too far for many, not just disrespecting the original, but actively mocking it in the belief that their version was superior. That is like Rich slapping on a bold cap and saying that he's the new Jules. It's not going to go down well, and you haven't got the back to carry this channel, my friend. Ooh, got a bit spicy there. Number 5, Smoke and Reptile, Mortal Kombat. Now, this is a very literal interpretation of video game characters you won't recognize, as when you compare Smoke and Reptile when they first hit arcades to their iterations today, it's like night and bloody day. To be fair, both were originally palette swaps, and the popularity of these color swap combatants meant that some development was going to have to happen somewhere along the line. And ye gods did they lean into it with Reptile being a reptile. He looks like the sort of thing that Rich has wet dreams about after watching The Shape of Water in his current form. And Smoke, well, poor old Smoke has had quite a few outings, but he's very rarely been able to appear in what you'd class as a human form, more often than not being grouped into the Triborg character. However, when he's outside of his cybernetic shell, he just looks like a Whitesnake video come to life. Number 4, Mega Man, Street Fighter Cross Tekken. Oh, bless Mega Man. He's had quite the comeback with the well-received and much-appreciated Mega Man 11, but for quite a while, he was like a bit of a forgotten race of mole men that live under your floors. Isn't that right, Rich, you bloody pale goblin? What I mean is that for the longest time it felt that he was just overlooked, and at one point his only representation came from a fan-made game. Then came Street Fighter Cross Tekken, which gave us, or at least the PlayStation owners of this game that is, this. Tubby Mega Man. Oh me, oh my. Now, in fairness, this is a callback to his original box art colours, which itself is an unadulterated mess, but everyone knows him as the Blue Bomber, not as the two-tone tramp with a beer gut that even wrestlers of old would balk at. This is not the lithe little run and gunner who changed the lives of millions. This was the uncle that isn't invited over at Christmas. Number 3, Sonic and Knuckles. Look at their hoofing legs, man. I mean, while the world has finally come to accept these lanky furries and their janky-ass games, when the images for the new Sonic Boom came out, it nearly broke the internet with laughter. It was weird enough seeing old Sonic next to the then-current Sonic in Generations, but now, with foot wraps, scarves, and slicked-back spikes, the Sonic of present day is as far from the original concept as Rich Hudson is from talent. Oh, and also, when did Knuckles become so stupid? I mean, I always thought that he was meant to be Sonic's equal when he first smashed onto the scene, but now he's just a generic dumb bruiser. Number 2, Nathan Rad Spencer Bionic Commando. With a name including Rad, you're pretty much free to go full banana sandwich with his overall aesthetic, but I can damn well say that I didn't expect to see him go this far into the realms of weird. Now, let it be clear, the rebooted Bionic Commando was actually pretty brilliant, but it had its fair share of weird moments, namely his arm being his wife, which is actually could also be said of Rich Hudson because, you know, he's married to the shuffling of his knuckles, but the redesign of Nathan was the cream of the crazy crop. From dreadlocks to the I'm so bloody mean and mysterious grimace, the rebooted Bionic Commando had about as much in common with the original design as Microsoft would like the Kinect to have with any new Xbox One marketing campaign. And number 1, Spyro the Dragon. Could it have been anyone else? I mean, the original design of Spyro is, in my opinion, pretty much perfect. He's got the lovely big old head, some sick legend-esque horns, a cheeky attitude, and oodles of personality that just come across simply from his movement. Now let's compare him to the Skylanders Spyro, and wow! Just wow. It's less that he's been hit with the ugly stick and fallen through every branch on the ugly tree. It looks like he's hit puberty and it's not gone well for him. Insert final Rich Hudson joke here, and he's hating every minute of it. Despite what anyone says, consoles really do need mascots. And it's a crying shame to see someone as iconic as Spyro get dealt such a duff, consumer-tested hand as this. But at least he's looking glorious in his reignited form, eh? Bless him. And there we go, that's my list and the end of Rich's punishment for making fun of me on Twitter. And speaking of which, you can go follow me at RetroJ with a 0 over on that lovely blue brand that is Twitter over there. As always, I've been Jules, you have been awesome as per usual. I hope you're having a fantastic start to your 2019, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye!